Greetings to all and welcome to another of our monthly Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty. My name is Jonathan Tong and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups at the L&L research page shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group and we do meet on Zoom twice a week, Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or our Zoom sessions. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome to join. Just contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you would like to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week to let folks know what we're talking about that week, as well as the Zoom links. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of previous Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty, Austin Bridges, Gary Bean, and Tricia Bean, as well as episodes of our podcast. Just go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button if you would like to be notified when we upload new videos, and contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you'd like to sit in on any of our Q&A sessions. Otherwise, we are blessed once again today to be joined by our good friend Jim McCarty for some informal conversation, questions and answers about the law of one and how to live it. How are you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing well.
Good. You have a different background there, my friend. Are you calling from the Amazon rainforest, or what's going on here?
Well, sort of. It's what Carla and I call the way back in our kitchen. Gary and I had a meeting with my trust officers a week ago, and I decided to bring us in here because we both needed to be able to sit in front of the computer, and it was the easiest place to be. So I discovered that the lighting I don't have to bring the lights in that I had before in the living room. And I have a philodendron plant over here on my right, and American holly bush over here on my left, and then a peace lily back on my right too.
Wow, it's beautiful.
So it helps the atmosphere out.
Yeah, no doubt. We love having houseplants at our place too. I hear you've been getting a fair bit of rain there in Louisville recently.
We have been getting quite a bit of rain. I guess about 3 weeks ago, I got in 4 days, the first 4 days of April, I got 18 inches of rain. And I've seen our newspaper recently that this increased rain, not that much, but it's supposed to continue. So the last couple of days, we've got a couple of inches. And so I haven't had to water any of the plants outside. I've started planting my annual plants, got them planted in the front yard, just started on the side yard now, and I've got some more to do in the backyard. So the rain's really making things great for the plants.
Wow. Well, I wanted to thank you for being here. And I did want to note that we have quite a few folks here on the Zoom call. And if you have a question that you would like to ask Jim, please go ahead, put it in the chat window. I see a question from Alina and Stephen for starters. And if anyone else has questions, go ahead, put them in the chat window and I'll put them on my list and we'll make sure that you have a chance to do that. Otherwise, Jim, I know before we started recording, you mentioned that today is Kentucky Derby Day in Louisville, which is a pretty big event. And I think you had some things that you wanted to share about it. Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. I have bone to pick with the Kentucky Derby. People come from all over the world to what's supposed to be the greatest sporting event around. The Churchill Downs holds 170,000 people. But this is a little piece I found on the internet. So I knew that 2 years ago, 12 horses had to be euthanized at the Churchill Downs. So it says, memories are made at the Kentucky Derby, most of them good, whether cashing a winning ticket, sipping mint juleps, or marveling at the horses. Crowds packed Churchill Downs to experience a bucket list sporting event. Many left last year in tears, anger, and questioning the safety of the sport after 12 horses died at the historic track in the days surrounding the race, including 2 on Derby Day, when racing enjoys its biggest attendance and highest TV ratings of the year. And at that same year at Saratoga, 12 horses died there. And the reason this seems to be happening is money. The horses are bred for speed and not endurance. And when you bred for speed, you don't have the strength in the forelegs and other parts of the body that break down on the track. So the horses have to be euthanized there. So in the name of money and having parties, One of the biggest parties in the world is thrown the day before Derby Day by the Barnstable twins. And they have thousands of people that come to their party, A-list and B-list celebrities. And so in the name of money and fame and having parties, the Kentucky Derby and many other derbies around the country are run and horses are dying in the name of money and parties.
That is sad and that is tragic. I see Morris, Linda, did you have something wanted to add?
Well, Jim is mostly right about what he was describing, but I do have some good news related to the Derby. Horses at the end of their racing career, if they've gotten hurt, as Jim just described, or they're just not competitive anymore, they end up going to the butcher and becoming dog food, which is kind of a sad outcome for a horse that's been working as a racer. My sister started up the largest racehorse adoption program in the country that has rehomed over 7,000 horses. Yesterday at the Derby, a donor donated $100,000 to them for what they're doing to rehome these racehorses, which is a bit of good news.
Nice, appreciate sharing that.
And if any,
I did want to note for our viewers that Morris Hoagland is vice president on the board of L&L Research and has been for the last 40 plus years. So old friend of Jim's and Carla's and Don's going back to even before the Ra contact. So much appreciate that, Morris. Linda, did you have something to add?
yeah, if any of you would like to have one of these race horses, like I said, what they do is they retrain them from being racers into being pleasure or dressage or jumpers. And if any of you guys would like to adopt one of these horses, all you need to have is a stable and probably the ability, you know, the chance to get out there and give a horse a hug every now and then and be one of their new owners. So go for it.
Nice.
Morris won't let me, but other than that.
My brain isn't even stable enough to raise a dog or a cat, so I'm going to hold off on the horse. But yeah, appreciate putting that out there for sure. Jim, was there anything you wanted to add in terms of what we on the call or we watching the video could or should do to help end this, I would say, barbaric practice?
I don't know if there's anything that can be done. As Bob Dylan says, money not only speaks, it swears. And I think that it's just too ingrained, but you know, every now and then maybe you could say something in your newspaper, write an editorial. I really don't know what to do about it. This is all I know to do.
Yeah, well, appreciate it. I'm sure that makes a difference in time, space, as well as space time. Do you think maybe writing to the Kentucky Derby people or the Louisville newspaper would make any difference?
Well, you know, you can write letters to the editor for the newspaper, and I think that that would help, you know, to spread the word. I don't think writing to the Kentucky Derby people would help anything, you know.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, appreciate it. Yeah, maybe finding posts about that from groups that are interested in sharing that on social media might help as well. So thank you for getting us started on a real downer note here.
And loving to dance.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm sure everyone understands the importance of treating our second density friends with respect as one and as a creator also. So it's a beautiful way for us to think about what we're doing and why we're here. So thank you. Let's see, Jim, I do notice that we have a few questions in the chat window. So I think I'd like to go ahead straight to the questions there. I do see Alina first and followed by Stephen, and then we'll go in order after that. Alina, do you want to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yes, hi Jim. It's so good to see you again. This is my third time actually having an opportunity to ask questions. I've been kind of wondering, my mind is trying to understand how the consciousness, collective consciousness works. And the best way kind of like address or try to understand that is maybe you can talk a little bit more on how come this Ra is collective consciousness, that core is also, I'm assuming, collective consciousness. How do they relate to each other? Are they both like, I guess I'm having a hard time even asking a question because I guess I'm missing information of how it's possible that they're both in part of a confederation, I'm assuming, but there are separate entities. If you can like help me out with, you know, maybe some extra information, or how do you understand that? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. I hope I can give you an answer that makes any sense. Ra is what's called a social memory complex. And that means that on Venus, they had 32 million people altogether, 38 million, and 6.5 million were able to blend their desire to love and serve each other as the one creator at least 51% of the time. So they pointed their compass for those 6.5 million in the same direction. The others that did not do that were not able to graduate into the fourth density of love and understanding. And eventually Ra was able to move through the fourth of love and love, and the fifth of wisdom, and then the balance of love and wisdom in the sixth density. So Ra is a sixth density social memory complex. Quo, on the other hand, is a principle of a fourth density Hatan social memory complex who did the same blending of their desire to serve the creator at least 51% of the time to all those around them. And of Latui, of the fifth density, who did the same thing and have moved into the fifth density. And then Quo is the fourth of Hatan, fifth of Latui, and the sixth of Ra, a principle which began speaking 2 years after the Ra contact ended due to the death of Don Elkins, because Carla wanted to channel the highest and best contact that was available to her. So Hatan, Latui, and Ra got together and said, let us form a principle that can allow her to do her best at channeling. And so that's basically the response. Do you have any follow-up question?
That is very interesting. That's definitely, for some reason, I have not thought there are different densities in the first place. So does that, so do you need to be a higher density being to channel those? So the channeler has to correspond to the density of the entity that's being, or memory complex that's being channeled? Is that kind of how that works?
To my knowledge, that is not necessary. I would imagine it could help because wanderers come here with certain into the third density, go through the veil of forgetting just like everyone else, but they have certain talents that can be used. One of them could be channeling, one could be teaching, could be art, one could be just doing whatever they can to help the planet. They are called the brothers and sisters of sorrow, and the sorrow on earth has brought them here. But I believe other people who are not from higher densities can learn how to channel. We have a number of people in our group over the years that have channeled. I have no idea whether they are from other higher densities or they just learned because they had their own particular pre-incarnative choices of gifts that they developed while they were here, learning to do the same thing, love each other as the creator, at least 51% of the time in their lives.
Interesting. I mean, this is definitely something to think about. I'm always was wondering like what would be my gift. I'm gravitating to like the pranic healing and healing work. That's not what I do for a living, and I kind of do most of it pro bono. So I'm always questioning, is that the reason I'm taking all those classes and drawn to it? But it just kind of like a side note here, because I'm wondering what is that my my role to play in this.
Well, if you want to ask that question in your meditation and make it the purpose of the meditation, you might be able to receive some messages either from one of your guides, from your higher self, from the creator, from another person who used to be part of your group on another planet, or in your spiritual family that is incarnating in series here on earth. Sometimes people that we love and adore pass into larger life, and then they also become what we would call a guide. So look to your meditation, and maybe one of these sources will give you an idea of what you are here to do.
Interesting. So how do you distinguish between some material that is kind of like your thought and something that came in from elsewhere?
I'm sorry, say
Like,
that again.
like how do you distinguish in your meditation, like their thoughts come in and I'm like, was it my thought or is that a channeled or message from somebody else? Like, do you have any advice on that?
Well, sometimes whatever source is giving you the information will identify themselves. Otherwise, I think it's just best to use your intuition and go with what feels right.
That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to give us this opportunity to ask questions I could be asking for a long time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your questions.
Those are great questions indeed, Alina. Thank you for asking. Christina, did you have something to ask as a follow-up?
I do. And it's funny that you brought this up because it had been something that I was curious about. So, Jim, sorry, my symptoms are starting to trigger because I had too much caffeine. So let me see if I can get through this. So the ones that didn't make it to the next density with Ra, so the ones that didn't graduate, like the 30 million or so, where did they go? So, and even the ones with Quo and Hatan, you had mentioned like the ones who graduated. What about the rest of the entities who weren't able to graduate? I know that Ra had talked about, they would go to a planet that was similar to their vibration. But I think ultimately my question is, if we're all part of the same collective, we don't move to different collectives, do we? So the Ra collective will always be together, right? So then do they kind of like take a vacation till they get to?
That's a great question, Christina. Let's hear what Jim has to say about that. I think we got the gist of your
If
question.
I understand, Ra themselves moved to another planet, but well, I don't know if that's true either. Those that did not make the harvest in what was the social complex of Venus at that time, which we now call Ra, they would go to another planet to try again to make that harvest. And I think that's one of the reasons that here on Earth, we have so many people who have come from other planets where they did not make the harvest, and they're trying to do it again. Now, Ra, I believe, probably stayed there through the sixth density and then moved. They said they left in order to be of service. They never said where they went, but they said they had become light. And so I believe that they went to our sun, and the sexual reproduction that they would enjoy there would provide the light that we feel here, that would help the planet, the people, the earth, the animals, the trees, and everything to grow, along with Mother Earth and the rain that we get. So I think that Ra probably stayed there until they decided to go to the sun. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I guess more maybe the question is too, because as it applies to Hatan and Quo, and even our collective, so some of us will graduate, some of us won't. The ones that do, I'm assuming, stay together as much as possible, but the ones that don't necessarily graduate, how do they stay part of the collective, I guess?
They probably don't. I think that what they do is they join with their guides. Everyone, when they pass away and leave their body, goes to what's called the healing and review of the incarnation. And as they go there, they are walking into the light. And if they're not able to walk far enough to get into the fourth density light, then their guides will help them find another planet of third density to go to try again. They all wouldn't go to the same place. they haven't become they're not related to each other like a social memory complex. They're still individualized. They're parts of a social complex.
That's
So they and their guides would probably assess the situation, see where the best place for them to go would be. And they may go to the same place that some of the others would go, or they may go to different places. But that's something that they would determine with their guides. And the people who do make that harvest from here on planet Earth will become fourth density social memory complex on this planet. They will stay here.
And then-
Super fascinating. Yeah.
wanderers would go back to their social memory complex.
Right.
as well.
Depending upon what you might call contract they made with the Council of Nine on Saturn, each wanderer comes here with a plan. They want to offer their services in some way to be of service to those who are calling in agony and pain and suffering. That's why they're called the brothers and sisters of sorrow. So whatever contract or agreement they make with the Council of Nine, then they stay for as long as that agreement is necessary to be fulfilled. Ra said some wanderers have been here for 50,000 years, which is 2 major cycles. Most have come within the last 200 years.
Yeah. Super fascinating. And thank you for the questions, Christina. I think that's something many people have wondered about at some point. So just for clarification, Jim, would it be fair to say that wanderers from, let's just say the Ra social memory complex as an example from 6th density, if as they do their acts of service to others incarnate on several different planets, perhaps several different times, would it be fair to say that there's a good chance that wanderers become in some way part of a number of different social memory complexes from all the planets they incarnate on?
I don't know. We've never gotten that information. I don't think that would be the case. I think that when you're a member of a social memory complex, that is the one you stay with until you are in the 8th density. Everything, all people, all beings, all places are coalesced once again into the one infinite creator. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good enough answer for.
I do know that Ross said that some of their wanderers did go to other galaxies,
Right.
and the archetypical mind there was much different than the one here. It was very hard to understand, but they still wanted to serve, so they gave it their best.
I remember that. Yeah, I also find that just super, super fascinating. Want to thank you for all the questions and follow-ups on this, and apologies to the folks who've been waiting to ask their questions. I see quite a few in the chat window. I think we're going to have a great time this morning. Let's hear from Stephen next, followed by Patrick, Adam, and Elaine.
Hi, good morning, Jim. It's
morning.
it's a real pleasure to be here with you. This is Goober. This is my dog. He's my second density Goober, and we're talking about horses and pets. And I wanted to know, so Ra talks about pets as second density entities, which are capable of transitioning to third density as a result of human connections. How long that takes? Do you believe that we have past lives together with dogs and pets? And are you yourself a dog person?
I was a dog person when I was a kid. I had a Cocker Spaniel, a German Shepherd, and a Collie. When I joined the Raw Contact, I became a cat person because the people I was with beforehand gave me a little kitty that liked to crawl onto my shoulders and sit with me while I was helping them out at their Windsong School of Awareness. As far as you were asking about the ability of second density dogs, cats, and so forth to graduate?
Yes. Yep. And how long does that normally take? And do you think that we have past lives? I feel like I've had a past life with this dog before.
Right. Okay. Yes, I believe we can have the dog and the cat can have past lives with us. I have a little cat here, well, a picture of him here just around the corner, Pickwick, who I believe was my Cocker Spaniel dog when I was in the 6th grade. And Carla had a cat named Ego, when she was in grade school that later on became Gandalf, that's spoken of during the Ra contact. And then Ra mentioned that Gandalf may want to come back instead of going on to third density, because he was a mind, body, spirit complex then, that he might want to come back and be with her again. And he did, as far as we know. He came back as a lilac point Siamese that we named Mauve, Mauve, or we called her Momo. Now, I think the way it works with dogs or cats or whatever animal you're close with is that you form a bond of love between you, so that the love that you give to the dog is eventually returned to you as love. And that binds you in that concept of love that helps the dog or a cat or a horse or whatever to become a third density being. And I think that's happened a number of times here. Carla and I had 19 cats together over the years. And the last two, Dandelion and Chloe, according to her, after she passed into larger life, she contacted me in the dream state and let me know that they had become third density beings.
So
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for asking the question, Stephen. Patrick, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Hi, sorry I keep cutting in and out. My internet's kind of dodgy today. I was curious about the tarot and description of the body, mind, spirit complex, and like how it's like a matrix, and like the different like archetypes that it assigns to each of the different. There's 3 different cards for each. Like I saw a chart of this and it was fascinating, and I want to know an easier way to remember this pattern. Is there an easier way to remember that pattern?
I wish there was. No, I think that is probably some of the most difficult information that we ever channeled from those of Ra. But I think it is probably some of the most helpful. Once you get into studying the tarot, I think you can learn a great deal more about your mind, your body, and your spirit, and how they work together. Unfortunately, we only got the detailed information about that of the mind. So we only had general information about body and spirit. So generally what Ross said, the tarot, the archetypes, the major arcana of the tarot were designed to help us become aware of the nature of our evolution, how we evolve in mind, body, and spirit, so that if we could understand more about that as an individual, we could apply that knowledge to those around us. And if we could join together in groups like this group we have right here, that we could study that, and each person could give more of his or her idea of how it all works. Because Ross said what they gave as information was within general guidelines, general borders that we could each interpret on our own in some degree. So I think we can help each other do that by joining together in groups, because it's a real difficult choice to make on your own, to take that as a path without help from others. And that's what we're here to do, is to help each other in service to each other. So you increase your polarity, your knowledge, and your ability to move into the higher densities by serving others here in this way or in whatever other way you choose.
It's a great question, Patrick. Thank you. Does that answer your question? Do you have any follow-ups on that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ahead of.
That's good. I see a couple of people have their hands up, maybe to add some clarification or follow-up questions. Linda, was there something you wanted to add?
Have you decided to ask Quo about the remaining tarot cards and have him explain it as Ra did?
No, you're saying, should we or would we? We haven't, never.
Have you?
No,
Are you going to?
I have no idea.
Submit the
don't
question,
you?
Linda. You know how the game goes. Go ahead, submit your question. And
Yeah, I'm usually
team will
a
ask.
channel. I don't ask questions.
Okay.
Neely, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, this is going to be a shameless plug. Hi, everybody. Patrick, we have a group that meets every other Monday where we work together on the tarot and the archetypical mind. And even though we're all complete bozos, we kind of are being bozos together and helping each other try to understand the cards better, the archetypes better, actually. So you are more than welcome to join us.
Feel free to put a link to that in the chat window.
Thank
And
you.
if anybody watching this on video is interested, ask about it in the comment section, and we can put the link there as well. Patrick, I was maybe not paying close enough to attention to your question. I think I was busy looking at questions in the chat window. But if you were asking like a way to remember the order of the archetypes like matrix, potentiator, catalyst, and so on, old school trick is create a mnemonic device, take the first letter of each of those things, and then create some kind of sentence or phrase out of it that you can remember. That might help. If that's not what you were asking, then just ignore that. Adam, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yes, thank you, Jim, for being here. I was in a group the other day this week and was talking to Andy, and this came up. And I have a feeling I kind of know the answer, but I just want your take. So I know Carla couldn't have kids, but you guys did practice sexual transmutation before some of the sessions, or a lot of them. In this practice, did you guys use condoms, and do you feel that the sexual transmutation of energy is still effective with such barriers, or is it not needed?
We discovered, I guess, probably after session 16, that the normal sexual energy exchanges that we were having allowed the contact with those of Ra to be longer. And so we decided that we would do that before each session, but we would dedicate the session to being of service to the one infinite creator, because that was what Carla always wanted to do. And it always doubled the power or the amount of sexual energy that was transferred. And if we had an orgasm together, that would also double it. Now, as far as using condoms, we did not use condoms because Carla knew that if she wanted to continue to be a channel throughout her life to serve the creator in that way, even though she wanted to have 6 children, she wouldn't be able to have any children because it would be too time consuming, because children have a lot of energy and she would want to give them a good deal of that energy. So she had her tubes tied before I joined them.
Wow. Thank you for that question, and thank you for the response. Never occurred to me to ask. Did you have any follow-ups on that?
I would suppose, Jim, in general, do you think sexual transmutation, if it were to be practiced by 2 loving people in their heart center, would they not need to use barriers like that for it to take place? Or would the condom be also the creator their experience?
First of all, I should have mentioned that for a sexual energy transfer to occur that has any benefit to either entity, the heart and center must be open. You must be able to see the creator in all people and be attempting to be of service at least 51% of the time to anyone and everyone around you. So that would be necessary before either person could have a transfer and to feel the benefit of that transfer. But if only one of the people has the heart open, that person would feel it, the other would not.
I would imagine, since it's an energy exchange, a physical condom wouldn't make any difference in the exchange. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking or.
Oh, well, yeah, I think you're right. I wasn't looking at that as part of the answer.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, thank you.
Great questions. Thank you. Alina, did you have a follow-up on that?
Yes, thank you. Actually, I studied Tantra energy on sexual transmutation, and the way we studied that with my husband is that the female loses majority of the energy through menstrual cycle and the male through ejaculation. So what we've been taught is essentially have an orgasm without ejaculation and then using that energy to lift it up to the heart center. And that what was transmuting the energy from the lower, Kundalini energy, whatever, into the heart. So there shouldn't be even a conversation of a condom, as it is protecting just from the semen. It should be no ejaculation. I know we're going into like quite an interesting topic here, but I've studied that. And also in a later like the way it should transmute, you have a connection, energetic connection, heart to heart. Essentially you having this intercourse without a touch, which obviously this is kind of like a higher density beings thing. And I don't know, Jim, if you have ever heard or channeled anything on that regard, would be very interesting. I didn't think that we're going there, but I guess we did. Thank you.
Well, if I understand what your question is, basically, in the third density, when the energy transfer is accomplished, the energy that's transferred from the male to the female is physical energy, because the female is usually less physically energized. What's transferred from the female to the male is spiritual and emotional energy, because in general, the male has less of those energies. So I always thought that the female had the best energy to transfer. Now, in the higher densities, it is what I've understood here recently by co-channelings is that any interaction between any higher density beings creates an energy exchange of that nature without there being any attempt to do so. Because the higher you go in the densities, the more the feeling of orgasm is perpetual.
Fascinating. We're going to have to do a whole podcast episode on sexuality and sexual energy exchanges. This is great. Patrick, did you have a follow-up question?
Absolutely. I have been going through a self realization, actualization, identity crisis, whatever you want to call it, gender affirming care, etc. What does Ra, Quo, and all these, what do they say of trans people, or even being trans, or trans as existing, or just like that kind of sexual energy transfer, like of that binary system? Like where do trans people fit in that?
To my knowledge, there's never been any information given about trans people, the LGBTQ and questioning group. In one session, Ra did speak of homosexuality in a way that did not feel appropriate. So we have asked a friend of ours and a couple of other friends to write essays on homosexuality that would allow them to be seen in a brighter and clearer or more balanced light. But I think if we ever did ask Ra about that, or Quo, that they would be highly in favor of anybody of any sexual gender or choice of gender.
Yeah. I seem to remember a question on trans matters that came up at some point, and unfortunately I'm not remembering the specifics of it. But Patrick, I would encourage you to go to the LNL research website and use their search engine if you know how to do that, and put trans or transsexual in there and see if it comes up. But from what I've read, whenever the topic of homosexuality or LGBTQ issues have come up, it is, as Jim has said, they always encourage people to be true to who they are on the deepest level. And that is the biggest challenge that all of us face at some point, is doing something we know is right, even though society does not seem to agree with that. So I hope you and anyone else watching this who identifies as LGBTQ feels affirmed by this community.
I completely, like, I love that response. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you, and like definitely feel that Ra would, and like it back then it would have sounded a little weird. So thank you. I needed to hear that.
It is a very worthy question to ask also, since I'm having a hard time remembering if and when it came up as well as Jim. So I'm sure there are many people who would love to hear that question asked and answered. So go to contact@llresearch.org and submit that as a question. I would love to see it asked. Otherwise, let's hear from Elaine, followed by Lewis, and then Josh, and then Tat.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Elaine. Good to see you.
Thanks. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us again today. It's always such a joy to see you. I'm reading Carla's Book of Days through your blog posts every day. And recently, as I'm reading them, it feels like this is exactly focused on what I happen to be processing this particular day. It's like, gosh, this was written just for me today. It's wonderful. I love it. And so I've been wondering, how did Carla channel the Book of Days? It may be on the website, you know, how she did that, but I wasn't able to find it. So was it a private, like personal kind of download as she was going through the writing process, or were three of you together channeling the material for the Book of Days, a Book of Days?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Book of Days resulted with just Carla and I in the late 80s with her desire to create more of a better way of challenging entities that wanted to speak through her. So from an early point in her life, she had a contact with the Holy Spirit she would call Holly. And so she decided to see if she could channel Holly. And when you're channeling your guides, you don't need three people. She could have done it by herself, but I ran the tape recorder. And so she would start off with this challenge that was not included in the Book of Days. And then she said, well, I've got Holly on the line. I should let her say something. And so that is where the channelings came from. And each of them is unique. There were over 470 altogether. So we decided to choose the 366, including leap year, best ones to include in the Book of Days channelings from the Holy Spirit.
Okay. They're so beautiful. There's so much love. They're very comforting, and I take them through my day, and thank you for sharing them with us.
My
Beautiful.
pleasure. You probably have heard me say before, and others have too, I think they're the most inspiring channelings Carla ever did.
Yeah.
Every line, almost every word is inspiring. Ra had places where they were inspiring, but not like the Holy Spirit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan, we're not hearing you.
I think you're muted, Jonathan.
Sorry about that. Oh my goodness. I was saying that Carla is almost certainly smiling right now at that question. So thank you for asking, Elaine. And let's hear from Lewis, followed by Josh, Tat, and then Morris, and then Sean.
Greetings, Jim. I just had a couple of questions for you. The first was, besides meditation, was there any other practice or ritual that you did or performed to prepare yourself for service to others?
No, I think over the years, meditation is probably the best thing I've done. What I've tried to do after meditation is to put into practice what I feel intuitionally is a way to be of service to others. And I guess what I'm doing there is letting my guides guide me to whatever I could do. For my current neighbors, the ones that live here on the south side of me, every morning I put their paper up on the porch for them because the fellow there has he's been taking radiation treatments for prostate cancer, and it's kind of hard for him to walk. And across the street, I've had a neighbor that I put bird seed in her bird feeders and help her out with other things that she needs around her home. So I think everybody has a way of putting into action what you learn or feel in meditation. And I think if you just set your intention, Carla always said, whatever you want to do, set your intention to do it, because I believe that gives your guides and your higher self and your subconscious mind a base upon which to stand. And then you can build upon that base throughout your day and the rest of your life by looking for those opportunities. You're just being aware that they're going to pop up from time to time when you're out doing your shopping or walking in the neighborhood. I think things happen as they're meant to happen for you, as you choose and set your mind to be of service. So that's the best I can answer your question of what I've tried to do in my own life.
It's a great question. Any follow-ups on that, Louis?
Yes. Thank you, Jim, for that. And the next question actually is a little, it's nothing like that. So I've been listening to the Voices of the Confederation book, and I'm listening to it over and over because that's how my mind works. And some phrases through the channeled contact of Ra come through, and Latwi and Hatan, and it's like Adonai, vasu, borragus. And I think there's some kind of meaning outside of like maybe the ancient Hebrew depiction of Adonai. And I was just curious as to what that meant, or what you believe that means.
Well, we got some information about that, which I'm not really sure I totally understand. They said it was a language of Solex Mal, something to do with the sun. And what Adonai Vasu Borragus has to do with the sun, I really don't know. Adonai is a Hebrew term, and most of the Hebrew pronounce it Adonai, but because Ra always said Adonai, we said Adonai too. So that, I'm afraid that's the best I can do for an answer. I'm sorry, it's kind of short.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
I do remember looking it up, and I do remember it being asked of Quo sometime a long time ago. And I do remember an explanation, definition, but I'm sure I would not do it justice if I tried to say it here. So, Louis, maybe if you ask me at one of our Zoom sessions or something, I'll look it up and find it for you. It's a beautiful phrase for sure. Josh, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for being here, and thank you for the opportunity. During our reading session group on Wednesday, we were reading session 8, and something was mentioned with no follow-up that I was curious to see if you had any further experience to share about Dan Frye. In 8:30, Don asks, is this the type of craft Dan Frye was transported in? And they said he was in thought form, transported by Confederation thought form vehicular illusion in order to give this mind body spirit complex data so that we might see how this type of contact aided your people in uncovering the intelligent infinity behind the illusion of limits. Do you have anything to add to that on what that was and who Dan Frye is?
Dan Frye was a fellow who was had an encounter with a UFO, and I believe that it took him aboard, and they went from Santa Fe, New Mexico to New York City and back in 30 minutes. And that's all I know about that.
Great question. Any follow-ups on that, Josh?
No, thank you very much.
That's good. I believe we have a question from Tat, and then Morris, and then Sean, and I think we're going to make that the last question. Go ahead, Tat.
Hello, everyone. Hello from also Daniel. Actually, I was wondering, maybe that might be a question for further channelings, maybe not. But since you are, like, we have a lot of experience in people here and maybe not, I wanted to ask, like, that's going through my mind, and it's like, we are right now in this aerial experience on Earth, that communication happens nowadays more like in an aerial way. You know, we communicate nowadays, we don't have to be in presence. So we just go through like internet and everything happens through their air. So a lot of diets and a lot of recommendations to communicate were presented in this way, that we were repeating mantras or changing our diet to get more into this airy experience, to get more like in a higher frequency. Since that is not happening anymore because we are more aerial nowadays, I wanted to know if the diets and the mantras and that going in solitude and all these things that recommended like several years ago and even centuries to connect more with the spirit are maybe obsolete, and if is there any kind of new practitioner or practices actually, or diets that might help us to get a better frequency with our inner guides or guidance indeed. Because I
That's a
believe,
great question.
I believe that being vegetarian or vegan or flexitarian and so on has been very misunderstanding. And sometimes we tend to do these diets because we want to have a better contact or just to be more in resonance with Earth. So I wanted to know if
I think we got your question, Todd.
Okay.
Jim, you want to go ahead and respond to that?
Yeah, please.
Well, I'll do the best I can. I don't know if there's any particular diet or regimen or practice that is best for everyone. I think it's a situation where one shoe doesn't fit everybody. I think it's something you have to figure out on your own. And I think that's the most important thing. I think the intention, again, going back to Carla's setting of intentions, look at what's available to you in all of those areas of food and practices, mantras, and see what feels right to you. And for myself, I've decided, I think it was about 8 years ago, that I wanted to be a vegetarian, because to me that felt like the best thing for the food I was eating, because I didn't want to eat any meat that came from an animal that could give or receive love. Now, I know that plants also can have a certain consciousness, and that it's a good idea to thank the plants for the food if we're eating them. So, and my diet is a very simple diet. For me, I think my body appreciates a simplicity, the same thing for breakfast, the same thing for lunch, the same thing for dinner. But that's not for everybody. So I think this is something you have to decide on your own. I'm sorry, I can't give you an answer that fits, that you could.
Great question.
Do that.
Any follow-ups on that, Todd?
No, it's just because I realized that we are using like really old-fashioned ways to connect with our higher selves, and we go sometimes in fasting. And fasting was provided actually in the past because they were eating a lot of very, very grounded, we were eating meat and all these kind of elements. So I thought like, oh, maybe it's just because that time was really hard to get into sync with the higher self, because you were super grounded, you were super attached to earth and material things. And nowadays, since that is not really happening, or I mean, not for me. So I wanted to know if that was a special recommendation, maybe and one of the channelists were coming through, or like, hey, we recommend that people maybe eat 2 per day, or maybe once a day, or drink more water, or just that.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your answer. I think was part actually of my self answer, but I wanted to have a little bit more of information for maybe someone else also here in the call.
For sure.
Ra suggested fasting was a good way to get rid of thought forms of a dark or negative nature that you didn't want to have continuing in your mind. And so the fast could be, for a purpose. Fasting in general, people, I have a friend who only eats dinner. So his fast is 12 hours on each side of the meal.
Wow.
Thanks.
Great question, Todd. And yes, I'm sure that's something a lot of people have wondered about. So appreciate it. Morris, did you have a question wanted to ask? Or Linda?
My question was answered a little bit earlier, but I do have a very brief little one here. In my past readings, it's been so many eons ago, I thought I had read somewhere that Carla was part of the Ra social memory complex. Am I correct in remembering that, or is that a thought that came from God only knows where?
That was never stated in any channeling, especially in the Ra channeling. Ra said that there were 2 social memory complexes in the Ra contact, 5th density and 6th density. 2 were 6th density, 1 was 5th. But they would not tell us who was which, because that would be an abrogation of our free will.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. One more question from Sean.
Hello, Jim. Honored to be on call with you today. My question is on the time lateral, which I think is the exact same thing as saying quarantine for Earth, which is a custom to or specific to Earth situation. Is the ending of the time lateral on Earth the exact same thing as the beginning of the official full 4th density? Or after the time lateral ends, is there a cusp period of transition before full 4th density?
Well, I don't know if I can give you an exact answer. I have a couple of possible answers. Ross said that there was about 100 to 700 years left in the 3rd density experience here on Earth, but they couldn't be more precise because of the volatility of our people. And as far as the time lateral, I believe the time lateral was set up to increase the time of 3rd density to give more people a chance to make their choice, whether it was positive or negative, because that is what helps the creator to know itself better. When people make that choice, it is a more powerful choice if it polarized in one direction or the other.
Right. Okay.
It's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. I believe that is about all the time that we have for today, except for one more little thing, and that would be the pop quiz, of course. Pop quizzes are something we like to do at the end of our time together, just to end on a fun note and maybe look for Law of One connections in pop culture. Today's pop quiz is going to be a little bit different from usual. Today, May 3rd, 2025, is the day that over 1 million high school students in the United States are probably going to be taking the SAT test for college admissions. And since vocabulary is such a big, important part of the SAT, today we're going to have a pop quiz on Law of One vocabulary. Not vocabulary words that are have obtuse, abstract, conceptual meanings like intelligent energy or logos or polarity. Just weird English words that have popped up in channeling sessions over the years that have nothing to do with the Law of One specifically, but that nobody ever uses in conversation or probably have ever heard before. You know what I'm talking about, right, Jim? As far as obscure English words that pop up in channeling sessions from time to time.
Yeah.
Indeed. So I'm going to ask you 3 multiple choice questions about 3 such words. See how many definitions you can guess correctly. Folks on Zoom call, feel free to put your answers in the chat window. You who are watching on this video, feel free to say your answers out loud. We can hear you through time space. Otherwise, here's your first question. What is the meaning of the word plangent in this quotation? From August 23rd, 1987, quote said, "Realize that time is not a river, but that each present moment is plangent and brilliant and full to overflowing with a deeply moving kinetic upsurge of deeper meaning and endless connotations which inform the soul that seeks of the nature of the Creator." So what do you think is the meaning of the word plangent? Is it A, sentimental, B, unforgettable, or C, melancholy? What do you think?
Unforgettable, B.
B is good guess. As far as I can tell, the dictionary definition of etiolated, which is actually a plant word, it refers to the bleaching or altering of the natural development of a green plant by excluding sunlight, meaning it becomes pale, weakened, feeble. Hey, wait a minute, what am I doing? I am looking at the wrong word. I am totally sorry. Wow, I'm looking at my notes and I have my notes out of order. That is highly embarrassing. And I think I might have given you the answer to one of the other questions. Plangent is melancholy. Melancholy. The dictionary definition of plangent is, sad or melancholy.
That was a word that Carla used to describe Don, her melancholy man.
Yes, that's right. Did she ever use the word plangent in conversations ever?
Not to my knowledge, but she had a great vocabulary. She probably did.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Do you think, when you've run across weird words that you had to look up in the dictionary, do you think those were words that Carla, in fact, did know at some level subconsciously? Or were there words that she had no idea what it was and she was just enunciating the sounds as they came to her?
In the quote channelings I've been working with over the last year or so, I've had to look up the meaning of a few words, quite a few words.
Yeah.
I asked Siri, can you tell me what this means?
Wow. And this is from your channeling?
No, it's from Carla's channeling.
Oh, Carla's channeling. Has it happened with you? Have you said words in channeling that when you go back and read the transcript, you've never seen or heard that word before?
No, I don't think I've ever done that or seen that.
Nice. Yeah, fascinating. Well, let's try another one. Hopefully I won't mess this one up. Etiolated. What is the meaning of the word etiolated in this quotation? January 2nd, 2005, quote said, "Nevertheless, from the political or social point of view, or as this instrument would say, from the top down among your societal groupings, there is almost the reaction of a marionette or a puppet to the etiolated and thinned out discussion of an abstract tragedy." So what do you think is the definition of etiolated here? Is it A, weakened, B, insincere, or C, distorted?
I would say A, weakened.
Yeah, indeed. That word's popped up more than a few times in channeling sessions. And yeah, it seems to refer to a plant that hasn't been getting enough light. It's kind of weakened and pale and such.
It was used in the raw contact too.
That's right. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. That's why I didn't want to use the raw passage. I figured you would remember it from there. I was trying to make it a little more challenging for you. Let's try one more. How about this one? What is the meaning of quiddity in this quotation? Now that we have thoroughly rattled your cages and made you see the quiddity of yourselves and your incarnation and underscored this illusion's value to you, we may be free to speak upon your question, for we feel that we have de-emphasized it appropriately. So what do you think is the meaning of quiddity? Is it A, humor, B, strangeness, or C, essence?
C, essence.
Nice. Yes, indeed. Dictionary definition of quiddity is whatever makes something the type that is its essence. Did you know that one, or was that just a good guess?
No, I knew that one.
Really? Wow. I have never seen that word before, not even in crossword puzzles, which I don't do anyway.
Yeah, Carla loved crossword puzzles.
Did she? Oh, that's right. I think you did mention that
Really
before.
good at it too.
That would probably be where she got her vocabulary from, or at least some of it. Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for playing our little pop quiz, and thank you for your time here. Folks on Zoom, thank you for your awesome questions. This was such a great session.
Interrupt for just 1 minute?
Please.
Talking about the tarot not having body and spirit elaborated on, I have a friend who has written a book that has done that. And if you give me just a second to run in my room, I get his name and his book.
Yeah, feel free to do that, or you can just email it to me and I'll put it in the comment section of the
just
video.
Take me 10 seconds.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll be right back.
Memo to self, edit this part out of the recording too. Did want to thank everyone for being here, and when we are done, we will stop the recording, but we'll keep the Zoom session open. If anybody wants to stick around and chat and debrief afterwards, we can do that. Otherwise, yeah, really appreciated the questions today. This is probably one of the best ones we've had from having so many different questions and follow-ups. It was a great discussion. Did anybody have anything they wanted to ask about or say? Whoops, there's Jim.
Yes.
Have you got it, Jim?
His name is Sergei Danilov, Sergei Danilov. His book is called Music of the Spheres.
Oh, nice. Oh, beautiful. Appreciate your sharing that. Jim, was there any other last thoughts, reflections you wanted to share before we say goodbye?
No, I just really appreciate everybody being here and seeing so many good friends and new friends. And whenever I get together, have questions asked me about the Law of One, it just ignites something in my heart, in my spirit that wants to be of service. I think that's why I'm here on this earth. I appreciate all you being together with me. And when we're together, we're a little social memory complex that helps each other move forward on our journeys. And I want to tell you how much I really love you all. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about the Law of One. And I look forward to our next gathering. And I hope it all goes well with you and your journeys forward. We are always together in spirit.
Indeed. On behalf of the rest of the group on Zoom and whoever is watching this on video, we all love you very, very much. And thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. And to all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. For all who took time out of their busy days to join us on Zoom today and be part of this discussion, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. And to you who are watching this on video at some point in the near or distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. And the love and light of the one infinite creator. Till next time, Adonai. Namaste.